Imagine someone who makes you feel like the center of the universe. They listen intently. They praise your uniqueness. They seem to understand you on a level no one else ever has. You feel chosen, special, seen. Now imagine that same person. Months later, your confidence is shattered. Your sense of reality feels fuzzy. You're constantly apologizing, walking on eggshells, and yet you're convinced you can't live without them. You've been expertly dismantled, not by a monster, but by a master. This is not the work of a single flaw, but of a potent, sinister fusion of personality traits known to psychologists as the Dark Triad, and its operators are far more common, and far more devastating, than you might think. This is a story about how narcissism, Machiavellianism, and psychopathy, three distinct but often overlapping dark personality traits, combine to form the ultimate psychological weapon. It's a blueprint for manipulation so effective, it can hollow out a person's soul while convincing them it's for their own good. We'll break down each component of this toxic alloy, see how they work in concert, and expose their fingerprints in our relationships, our workplaces, and even our societies. This is not about diagnosing individuals from afar, but about understanding a pattern of behavior that causes immense, often hidden, suffering. Knowledge is your first, and best, line of defense. Let's begin by dissecting the first pillar of the triad, narcissism. We're not just talking about vanity or self-absorption here. We're talking about a deep-seated, pathological need for admiration and a profound lack of empathy for others. The clinical core of narcissism is a fragile, unstable self-esteem that requires constant external validation, a phenomenon psychologists call narcissistic supply. Think of it like a psychological battery that is perpetually draining, and can only be recharged by the attention, praise, envy, or even fear of other people. The narcissist's world is a stage, and everyone else is merely a supporting actor, an audience member, or a stagehand to be used and discarded. Their relationships are transactional, designed to reflect their own grandiosity back at them. When you praise them, you are a good source. When you challenge them, or fail to provide that adulation, you become a threat to be neutralized. This leads to the classic cycle of idealization, where they love bomb you with attention, and devaluation, where they tear you down to feel superior. The devaluation is particularly cruel because it often follows a period of intense intimacy, making the rejection feel like a personal, devastating failure on your part. It's a trap designed to keep you striving to win back that initial, glorious approval. The second pillar is Machiavellianism, named after the Renaissance political philosopher Niccolò Machiavelli, who famously argued in The Prince that for a ruler, the ends justify the means. This trait is the strategic, coldly calculating engine of the Dark Triad. A high-mach individual views the world as a chessboard and other people as pieces to be moved, sacrificed, or exploited to achieve their goals. They are master tacticians of social dynamics. They are characterized by a cynical disregard for morality, a focus on long-term planning, and a profound skill in manipulation and deception. Where the narcissist needs you to admire them, the Machiavellian simply needs you to be useful. They are expert readers of social cues and human weakness, not out of empathy, but to identify leverage. They will lie flawlessly, forge alliances of convenience, and betray without a second thought if it serves their purpose. Their emotional detachment is their greatest asset. They don't get angry in the heat of the moment. They store grievances and plan precise, often delayed, retaliations. In the workplace, they are the scheming colleague who takes credit for your work. In relationships, they are the partner who keeps you financially or emotionally dependent, all while maintaining a calm, rational facade. They believe, at their core, that everyone is as self-serving as they are, and that trust is for fools. Now, we arrive at the third, and most frightening, pillar, psychopathy. It's crucial to distinguish this from the Hollywood serial killer. We are discussing subclinical or successful psychopathy, traits that exist on a spectrum and are often hidden behind a mask of normalcy. The core features are a profound lack of empathy, remorse, or guilt, coupled with impulsivity and a thirst for sensation. The psychopath feels no emotional connection to others. Your pain, your joy, your love, it's all just data, or noise. This emotional void is what allows for breathtaking cruelty without the burden of conscience. They are charming, glib, and superficially engaging. This mask of sanity is how they navigate the world. But beneath that charm is a chilling emptiness and a tendency toward boredom. They seek thrill and dominance to feel something. Their manipulation is often more impulsive and predatory than the calculated Machiavellian. They enjoy the game of control for its own sake. They are the ultimate confidence artists, the charismatic cult leaders, the ruthless corporate raiders who feel nothing as they dismantle lives for profit. While the narcissist is wounded by criticism and the Machiavellian is strategically patient, the psychopath is simply unbothered. Your humanity is irrelevant to their objectives. Alone, each of these traits is damaging, but when they combine, they create a synergistic psychological poison far more potent than the sum of its parts. This is where the true master manipulator is forged. Think of it as a toxic corporation. Narcissism is the charismatic, grandiose CEO, the public face, the vision, the source of the magnetic pull. Machiavellianism is the cunning, ruthless COO, the one running the operations, devising the strategies, managing the exploitation behind the scenes. And psychopathy is the risk-taking, amoral CFO, providing the emotional coldness necessary to sanction the most brutal decisions, removing the human cost from the balance sheet. This fusion creates a frighteningly effective cycle of manipulation. The narcissistic charm and grandiosity provide the initial lure. They draw you in with intensity, with the promise of being part of something special. Then, the Machiavellian calculation takes over, identifying your needs, your insecurities, your vulnerabilities. They construct a trap perfectly tailored for you. Finally, the psychopathic lack of empathy allows them to spring that trap without hesitation or regret. They can gaslight you, systematically making you doubt your own memory and perception, and feel nothing as you unravel. They can love bomb you and then discard you, not out of hurt, but because you have ceased to be a useful source of supply or a challenging game. The narcissist's rage at being challenged is given strategic direction by the Machiavellian mind and executed with the cold precision of the psychopath. This triad creates individuals who are not only driven to manipulate but are exceptionally, terrifyingly good at it. Psychological studies consistently show that individuals high in Dark Triad traits are more successful in short-term mating strategies, rise more quickly in certain competitive corporate hierarchies, and are perceived as more attractive leaders in times of chaos precisely because of this ruthless, charismatic blend. To see this in action, we must look at the real-world landscapes they poison. Let's start with toxic relationships. The cycle often begins with the idealization phase, powered by narcissistic charm. You are the soulmate, the perfect partner. This is a full-scale assault of attention, texts, gifts, future faking. It feels incredible, but this phase is not about love. It's about hooking you, about assessing your value as a source of supply. Once you're committed, the devaluation begins. Here, the Machiavellian and psychopathic traits engage. They might start with subtle criticisms, triangulation, bringing in an ex or a friend to make you feel jealous and competitive, or passive-aggressive comments. Your reality is constantly undermined. You're too sensitive. That never happened. I was just joking. This is gaslighting designed to make you distrust your own mind. The psychopathic lack of empathy means they can watch you cry, confused and heartbroken, and feel nothing but perhaps a sense of power or boredom. They may discard you callously, only to hoover you back when they need supply again, restarting the addictive cycle. You are left feeling broken, responsible, and addicted to the hope of regaining that initial perfect connection. The workplace is another prime hunting ground. Here, the Dark Triad individual often rises quickly. They are the colleague who presents your ideas as their own in a meeting, with a narcissistic flair that convinces everyone. They are the manager who pits team members against each other, a classic Machiavellian divide-and-conquer strategy, to prevent alliances and maintain control. They take credit for successes and expertly deflect blame for failures onto others, showing no remorse for the careers they damage. They may create a culture of fear and constant drama, which the psychopathic element thrives upon, while the narcissistic element basks in being the central, indispensable figure in the chaos. They are often skilled at managing upwards, charming superiors while terrorizing subordinates. Studies suggest that while these traits can lead to rapid ascent, they often correlate with long-term organizational damage, higher turnover, and a toxic culture. But by the time that's apparent, the Dark Triad individual has often moved on to a new victim, a new company. On a macro scale, the most chilling example is the cult leader. This is the Dark Triad in its purest, most destructive form. The narcissistic grandiosity provides the prophetic vision. I am chosen. I have the secret. Follow me to salvation. The Machiavellian calculation designs the entire structure, the isolation from family, the control of information, the rigid hierarchies, the financial exploitation. The psychopathic lack of empathy enables the unthinkable, the psychological abuse, the forced compliance, the absolute disregard for the follower's well-being. Followers are love-bombed into submission, then systematically broken down and rebuilt in the leader's image. Their reality is completely controlled. The leader feels no guilt for the lives destroyed. They are merely playing their destined role. From Jim Jones to modern-day toxic gurus, the blueprint is eerily consistent because it is built on this fundamental, triadic psychology of manipulation. So, how do you spot these patterns and, more importantly, protect yourself? The first and most powerful tool is awareness. Know the red flags. Beware of the love that feels too intense, too fast. Be suspicious of anyone who seems too perfect, or who immediately claims a profound, faded connection with you. Watch for a lack of long-term, deep friendships. Dark Triad individuals often have a rotating cast of acquaintances, fans, and enemies, but no true peers. Listen for inconsistencies in their stories and a tendency to blame everyone else for their problems. Pay attention to how they treat people they perceive as having no use. Waiters, customer service staff, subordinates. That is often their unmasked self. Protecting yourself is about boundaries, not confrontation. You cannot reason with, fix, or heal a Dark Triad individual. Their behavior is not a mistake, it is a feature. The goal is not to win, but to disengage. Strengthen your own sense of self-worth independently of external validation. This makes you a less appealing target, as you are not as reliant on the narcissist's praise. Practice trusting your gut. If something feels off, it probably is. Do not ignore the feeling of being drained, confused, or diminished after interacting with someone. Maintain a strong support network outside of any single relationship. Isolation is the manipulator's greatest ally. In the workplace, document everything. Create a paper trail for your contributions and interactions. Avoid sharing deep personal vulnerabilities quickly. And most critically, give yourself permission to walk away. No amount of potential, past good times, or apologies, which are often just tools to regain access, is worth the systematic erosion of your psyche. The story of the Dark Triad is not a tale of monsters hiding in shadows. It is a story about human potential twisted into a weapon. It's about the charismatic neighbor, the brilliant boss, the enchanting partner who carries within them a capacity for cold, calculated human consumption. Understanding this is not about fostering paranoia, but about cultivating discernment. It is about recognizing that the most dangerous traps are not built with steel, but with psychology, and are often baited with exactly what we desire most: love, validation, purpose. By pulling back the curtain on narcissism, Machiavellianism, and psychopathy, we reclaim a fundamental power, the power to see the game being played. And when you see the board, you are no longer just a piece. You can choose not to play. Your mind, your emotions, your reality, they are your sovereign territory. Guard them not with fear, but with the clear-eyed, unwavering knowledge of how they can be stolen. In the end, light is not just the absence of darkness, it is the ability to see it clearly for what it is. And in that seeing, we find our freedom.